Hi everyone, Jewel here with the update of Hurricane Dorian and what's going on. Well, this is the latest map right here. We're not going to check all the other systems now. You know they're out there. 120 mile per hour winds. The pressure now is 952 millibars. 27.1 north, 78.4 west. It has begun to move northwest at 1 mile per hour. Now, as we look at the tracking map right quick from the National Hurricane Center, you can see it all right here. We still have hurricane warnings for just about the entire coast of eastern Florida here. We do have a tropical storm warning right in this area of Georgia, and this is a hurricane warning, not a watch, excuse me. Down a little south of that's tropical storm warning. As we move on up to South Carolina now, we have a tropical storm watch, and also we have a hurricane watch. This is a hurricane watch, and just stick around because I'm going to show some specifics for Georgia and South Carolina in just a moment. But first, I want to tell everyone that the little town of Newbern, North Carolina, which is 35 minutes from me, is in a state of emergency now for everyone who lives in Newbern, North Carolina. And I will say it's looking like, yes, I'll get some wind where I live. And this is the Albemarle Sound up here. This little chain is the Outer Banks Islands. This is the Pamlico Sound, and I live right here at the mouth of the Pamlico River. It's looking like my greatest threat, once again, is going to be storm surge. Yes, I'm going to get rain, probably 3, 4, maybe 5, but I'm thinking 3 or 4 inches of rain. I'm going to have some wind in the 60s, possibly low 70s, but I'm thinking the 60s is going to be the highest winds that I have. But it is looking like more and more as the days and the time go by, the greatest surge is going to start happening in the Pamlico Sound, and that's going to feed up into my river. So I would appreciate everybody's prayers. Now, on to Dorian. The eye wall, of course, has become a little less defined over the past few hours on radar. But on the infrared satellite, the eye remains fairly well defined. This is a hard storm, folks, but the surrounding deep convection is looking somewhat fragmented. So that means these feeder bands are going to be sporadic and often on more spreading now and ragged. And people are going to start feeling them. Now, it's expected to move, or it's expected more or less, I should say, to maintain its intensity for about the next 36 hours. And after that time, it's going to get into vertical shear wind, and that should cause a gradual weakening. However, this system is likely to remain a major hurricane for the next few days. Folks, can you believe this storm has been stationary for the past 18 hours? I mean, you know, it's just something else. Now, the global models are all showing that a weakness in the subtropical ridge will develop in response to a trough that will amplify along the east coast of the United States within the next day or so, and Dorian should respond to these changes by beginning to move north-northwestward toward the weakness in the ridge. And a little later today, this is when this should happen. The system should turn northward with this gradual increase in forward speed as it moves through this weakness, moving on up within the next 48 hours. Now, later on, the cyclone should accelerate northeastward on the southern side of the trough, and that's what this forecast map is showing us right here. And just remember, I told you it's moving at 1 now, okay? We just got to still wait for it to actually turn, but slowly but surely it's going to crawl on across. And once it very, very slowly, remember I told you these bars show you how fast it's moving. Once it gets up to northern Florida, it's going to speed up a little bit. Once it reaches South Carolina, it's going to speed up much more, and then woof, it's going to go all the way out. Now, for my friends down around Georgia and South Carolina, this is what the wind is looking like you may get as of now as this storm gets closer to you. Remember, all of this can change. I'm just showing you what it's looking like now, okay? We got Savannah all the way up to North Charleston. You can see the area here, Mount Pleasant, North Charleston. Charleston itself's right on that borderline. If you're in the red, you can expect 74 to 110 mile per hour winds. If you're in the orange, you can expect 58 to 73 mile per hour winds. If you're in the yellow, 39 to 57 mile per hour winds. Now, when it comes to the storm surge, anywhere it's red here, if you live in these areas, there's Savannah. Savannah's over here a little bit, but right along the coastline here, major storm surge, greater than 6 feet above the ground is what you can expect. Now, so far as the rain, if we go look at the rain, Mount Pleasant, you're going to get the most of the rain as it's looking now, with probably some major flooding just from the rain. Now, if you're in the orange, moderate flooding from the rain, the yellow, you just have a chance. So if you are over in this area, you just got a chance of flooding. You'd have a moderate chance if you're here. If you're in the red, you got you got a good chance of flooding rains. And the tornado threats, we have to always think about that. Always a chance for everybody, from Florida all the way up till this thing gets out in the ocean away from everybody. If it's around you, you do have a chance of tornadoes to happen. Keep that in mind. Now, for eastern North Carolina, here is what the National Weather Service has put out in our briefing. It's anywhere in eastern North Carolina. We're still watching the track to see if it deviates some. We're a little bit further out than Georgia and South Carolina, but they should still watch also, because this track can change. But it's looking like, we are going to have prolonged periods of heavy rain. It could lead to flash flooding. There is the potential for storm surge, life-threatening storm surge. That's what I was talking about a while ago, and on all the maps that I have seen and all the people that I have talked to that do have a degree in this stuff, like I don't, the greatest potential now is looking like the Pamlico Sound is going to bring in water. So you just might want to keep that in mind. We do have a chance of some wind and, of course, tornado activity. And when it comes to mariners, you don't need to be out in a boat. You don't need to be out swimming. You don't need to be out surfing. You don't need to be to the beach. You don't need to be outside. The rip currents are awful. And the timing for this is starting late Wednesday, going into Friday, hopefully around 10 o'clock, say to lunchtime. This thing should be away from the North Carolina coast. This is a check of the storm surge watch and warnings down in South Carolina. This is a storm surge watch. I've already told you about that and showed you an update on that. Everything in the darker purple right in here all the way down into Florida is a storm surge warning at this time. I also want to remind everyone that the storm surge and dangerous hurricane force winds, they are expected across portions of Florida, East Coast, and the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. Now, regardless of the exact track of Dorian Center, water levels could begin to rise well in advance of the arrival of the winds. Residents in these areas should follow advice given by local emergency officials. And that's the way it always happens at my house. It starts a long time before it ever reaches its peak. And I'm sure North Carolina will be included in this as time goes on, probably by this afternoon or tonight. Now, North Carolina's looking like around Morehead City and Emerald Isle. That's where it's going to be our closest as it moves across. So keep that in mind. Now, it's also looking like flash flooding, that threat is going to increase today and tonight along the Florida Peninsula, and then spread up southeast and into the mid-Atlantic coast during Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe getting out of here by Friday. And this is a look of the flash flooding possibilities you can see right here down in this section of Georgia to South Carolina coastline, North Carolina coastline. Yeah, that's me right there, folks, right in here. I got a very good chance of flash flooding to occur. You can see everything here. I would also like to remind everyone right now, it is at 120 miles per hour. We know this. Well, these 120 mile per hour winds should last through at least the next 36 hours. And within 48 hours, 115 mile per hour winds. 72 hours from now, 100 mile per hour winds. Everything still depends on if it nudges a little east or west. That's the whole 9 yards ball of wax, folks. But this is more and more looking like what may happen. Everybody, please stay safe. I'll have more for you coming up later in the day. I have things I need to do. We do have lots of evacuation stuff going on, but not for my county yet. My county's a tough county, folks. We're tough people, but it's all around me, okay? So I still have things to do. I didn't hear from Brad yesterday. I should hear from him today, and as all planned last time we spoke, he should be here tomorrow morning. So, with all that said and done, everybody please stay safe. Don't let your guard down. Let's get Dorian up and out and away from all of us. Do what you're supposed to do. Listen to your local officials, your local weather channels, and make sure you abide by them. And from everything else, you know, check on your neighbors, make sure your pets are safe. All the airports around here from Florida to North Carolina, even in my little neck of the woods down along the coastline, I don't know about Raleigh, Durham, or Charlotte. Charlotte's probably fine. They may be having a few delays coming up in the days ahead. Raleigh may also, but some of the little airports right around me are trying to stay open right now, but they're thinking they're more and more going to have to turn people away coming up within the next probably 24 hours. So, please be aware of that if you're traveling. I love you guys. Stay safe. Thanks for everything you do for me. I appreciate it so very much. Peace, love, and kindness to all. Thank you so much for watching.